cool. I think we might be live here. All right, cool. Well, I'll skip the introduction music for today. Welcome to the Death by Tyranny podcast. I just wanted to hop on here. I was doing a little bit of research. I noticed that there was some new developments with the big C, little v, whatever you want to call it, to not be censored on these stupid platforms. I did make a post saying that I received a notice that I was banned for 30 days on Facebook, so I could no longer go live for at least 30 days. I appealed it, and I won the appeal. They originally said that they banned me for 30 days from going live because I used the F slur, and what I was referring to was I said that you can't say it on Facebook. I wasn't directly calling somebody the F slur, even though there's plenty of people that deserved to be called that. Of course, the birds are going to start chirping as I get on here. They didn't say one word until I decided to hop on here. But anyway, so as you can clearly see, they have overturned that, so I will continue to be going live on Facebook. Some of you might be happy about that. Some of you maybe not so much, especially as we are getting more edgier with the topics and content that I am exploring to go into. But the goal is still at some point to start doing these over on YouTube. I had some technical difficulties, and I'm going to try to iron those out, along with some of the internet connection. They have to replace some main wires outside of my house that didn't have anything to do with my router. So I figured I would use that time to further my knowledge in live streaming and hopefully be better prepared for when I go over to YouTube, as well as still looking into creating better thumbnails, since that seems to drive more traffic to the videos once they're posted to YouTube. And then at some point I will have to be banned, which I don't think I'll have to try very hard, because I guess that is one of the credentials to be accepted onto the Cozy TV platform. That's why it was made there, was for people and content creators that don't have a home anymore, that had a following, to have a place to continue getting their message out there, which is why I've not even applied yet. I'm sure there's a list a mile long. I'm sure there are better content creators than me by far, and there's absolutely smarter people than me that I'm sure have places far, far up the ladder before me. But on my journey, I can still gain more knowledge and try to become the best content creator, I guess, podcaster, and until then, and then when I think I'm ready, I will apply. But so we still have to get banned off of Facebook, figure out YouTube a little bit better, and then get banned off YouTube. Hopefully get a big enough following before those two things happen to go over to Cozy TV. This is, once again, just a friendly reminder. I am still looking for people that are artistically inclined, that may want to DM me or get a hold of me. It's Death by Tyranny on everything. It's Death by Tyranny podcast on YouTube. It's Death by Tyranny on Instagram. It's Death by underscore tyranny on Twitter now. I am trying to groom a social media manager as of right now to try to keep track of those things, and as I get a better handle on what platforms I'm going to focus on, I will add them to the little logo right there. But for right now, we'll just stay focused on Facebook, which is kind of on the Facebook topic. It's actually pretty disheartening, because I looked and I have 333 friends. And don't get me wrong, I don't expect all 333 friends to follow me over on YouTube, but there's only 22 subscribers. And I almost directly talk to more than 22 people a day. And I'm sure not all those people like me, and I'm sure out of those 333 people, not very many agree with me politically. But it's just disheartening that they wouldn't want to show support to somebody locally, or that they're related to, or that they know in some way that is trying to do something, whether they agree with it or not, to kind of better shape, the country and get more information out there from a different perspective. Even if you're coming at it from a leftist, Democrat standpoint, wouldn't you want, if you were trying to do something like this locally, wouldn't you want all the support you could get to, show local support and camaraderie and unity? And that's what I want to talk about really quick for the first topic. Is we have been extremely hoodwinked with the diversity and the Joe Biden uniting the country. I think we very quickly realized that was not the goal at all. He's in fact done the complete opposite. And the reason why I've come on here and kind of picked apart the conservatives a little bit and dove into more conversations about topics dealing with conservative ideas and the libertarian mindset, and how they're kind of crossing over and they're not really the same thing. And I think some things are getting lost in the mud there. But the reason why I've been doing that is because I almost feel like we can't have the tough conversations we need to have with the other half of the aisle, the people on the left, the socialists, the communists, whatever you want to call them, whatever you want to label them, the non-conservatives. The reason why I've not really tried to olive branch there or have those tough conversations is we just can't. And this is as clear as day, because we were, well, not conservatives and Republicans per se, but normies and some of the people that just didn't like Trump were hoodwinked into voting for Joe Biden, because he was supposed to be this moderate. He was supposed to be, not a radical leftist or a radical person on the right, or, either way. He was just supposed to be a normal guy getting back into a normal presidency, because we were going through such a crazy time. And I think that's why he got as many votes as he did, is because people just wanted to get back to normal. And now we have families falling apart. We have economies falling apart. And this is all because we did very drastic things to try to get back to that normality, instead of sticking through the tough times with the things that were good and holding on to those, so we got through the tough times faster and had a better outcome on the other side excuse me, of those tough times. We panicked and we were lazy, and people voted for what they thought was going to give them their normal back. And still today, we have people doing this with the vaccines. I can't tell you how many people I know that don't agree with the vaccines. They don't agree with the mandates, but they went and did it anyways. And some of them did it under the false pretense that they were no longer going to have to wear a mask. There was never a day where that was the case. There was never a day that I can remember where if you were vaccinated that you could take off your mask. They led you to believe that, But Joe Biden also said that there would never be any mandates. This would always be voluntary. And then he found a way around that. He said that he wasn't going to take our guns. And some people still believe that. He also said that he wasn't going to go against the Constitution, that he was going to stay within his powers. And we have already seen him go outside of the powers of the presidency and just trample all over the Constitution. So it's going to be very hard to even have these tough conversations with people on the other side of the aisle. For one, because they're just flat out lying to our faces. And then the other thing that's really making it hard is when you have people like Fauci and other Congress, well, he's not in Congress, but other members of the Biden cabinet speak in Congress and supposedly be under oath. What they're doing to try to not lie is they are changing definitions. And they, in some cases, they're doing it legally. But I would almost imagine that in 2020 and 2021, more definitions were changed for words that meant the same thing since the existence of that word in the history of the United States. It almost seems like they changed definitions every week. Whatever fits their scenario, if they use a word or they used a word past tense in something like they were under oath, they will go back and try to retroactively change the definition of those words. And this isn't fair. This isn't how democracy works. So it's really hard to try to come on here and have dialogue and a conversation about how to reach out to the other side and find some type of negotiation with them, because they're just going to change the definition. You can't have tough conversations about racism or race or multiculturalism, because they're going to change the definitions of it. So even if you do all the research in the world, or maybe you might even have a college education on certain topics, they will still go into that conversation thinking they are right, not with an open mind, but with a mind that's open to change definitions in the favor of their argument. And we have seen this with the CDC, where they go into a study with only doing what they need to do with that study to come to a conclusion of what they want that study to be. So I think there's a lot of things that conservatives need to work on. Big tech censorship is a big one, because without that, once we lose our line of communication, all we will have is our neighbors within, yelling distance. And that's not a lot of people. There's going to be virtually no way to unite if we need to do something drastic in a last case scenario, which I believe is probably already out of the cards after January 6th, and is probably one of the big arguments of why, somebody like the FBI would try to gaslight scenarios like that. Because as soon as they have the power to look in your bank accounts, if you have $600, no matter what your transaction is, as soon as they can label parents at board meetings terrorist, they have all the surveillance and all the funding, with the fake funding, because the U.S. government truly doesn't really have money, but they can use all their resources at their fingertips against us, and we have none of that. So even if we had, all the good Christian faith in the world in our hearts, when we come to have these conversations, it's not going to be fair, and it's going to be a waste of time. And this is why I've been trying to focus so hard on conservatives, and maybe conservatives that are truly libertarian, and might need to do a little bit of soul searching because the libertarian way just isn't working in the society that we live in today. So we really have to be careful with these definition changes, and we see it a lot in the mainstream media. And I want you guys to pay attention to it when you watch me, because I'm going to be talking about some things, and I might say, hey, today we're going to talk about multiculturalism. But when I say multiculturalism, understand that it might not be in the context that you're used to hearing it in the last year or two. We're looking at a more traditional definition of that word and what it means. So that's something you guys have to start paying attention to. And then in the areas that they can't change the definition, like night and day, the definition of night and day is pretty night and day. What they're doing in those scenarios are moving the goalpost, whereas they can't change the meaning of daytime, but they can change, what time is considered daytime. Instead of where we would normally say it's from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., that's daytime. If that doesn't fit their agenda or what they're trying to do for the week, or for a mandate, they will change it and say, well, now daytime means from 5:30 to 8 p.m. And they've been doing this ever since they have had full control of the government. And if you think they don't have full control of the government, you're not paying attention. The only reason things aren't getting done is because they're trying to save some of the good optics that they might have left, which I don't think is very much, for some of the big donor normies that voted for Biden that still think they have, that Biden and that administration have their best interest at heart. They do not. They knew the agenda going into it. They knew the radicalness of what was going to happen when Joe Biden won that election. And if we're being truthfully honest here, I think we all knew around 2 o'clock, even with the leads that Trump had, we all knew that Joe Biden was going to win the election. And that's really disheartening. And it's really hard to go forward as a conservative and trying to figure out, where do we go from here? And unfortunately, there are too many people that are giving up. There are too many people that are bending the knee. There are too many people that are willing to change definitions to get back to their normal. They are choosing to see their happiness and what they consider normality. Well, what we knew as normal is gone, and it's probably never going to come back. We are probably going to have to try to figure out a new normal. And I know that's a term that nobody liked to hear, and we all had hope that it would be something other than a new normal, but I truly think that is something we're just going to have to deal with, at least for the next 3 years. And then even after that, with all God's will being done, and maybe Trump getting back in office in 2024, or somebody better, or us winning more seats in the House or the Senate or whatever, even then, by the time that happens, there will have been so many drastic changes that I don't know that we will ever get back to what we knew in 2019, which seems like a decade ago, and it really wasn't. So I will continue to kind of critique the conservatives at this point, but along the way, try to point out some of the things we really need to be paying attention to when it comes to the left. But at this point, we're almost at their mercy. And I was talking to a friend of mine at work today who is, I believe, genuinely believe, he is very strong in his faith and a very held fast Christian. And I was kind of explaining to him where our ideas kind of differed. Whereas he believes that the word of God is your armor and your sword, and that's all you will need to make it through a battle versus good and evil. I told him that I believe that the word of God can do many of great things, and it should be our armor. But at some point in time, his word is going to have to give us the strength to pick up our own swords and fight this battle head on. And so inevitably we argued for about an hour when I just told him, I think we agree on what's going on and what's going to happen. What we're arguing is who should draw first blood. Are you saying that we should not pick up the sword and fight this battle against evil until they have swung their sword? Or are you willing to say we need to come together as a Christian nation and fight this evil head on while we are still somewhat united and still have the numbers to fight off some of this evil? And his response was, we should never strike first, and so we will just have to wait, and God's word will just have to be good enough for now. Which I knew that's, had that conversation already gone on for about an hour and a half. I knew where that conversation was leading, and I knew where his answer was going to be. And it was kind of dishonest on my part because I knew what his answer was going to be, so I knew my rebuttal. And my rebuttal is, they have already drawn first blood. I've said it for a long time. That there is no more talk of there's a civil war coming. The Civil War is here. It has been here. Whether it's cold or hot is the only argument left to be had. But in my opinion, it is hot. When you have people that are of, a minority culture able to go into a school and shoot a school up and injure people and then walk out the next day like nothing happened, and then you have actually a younger Caucasian male use a firearm in self-defense that was caught on tape, that in my opinion and in a lot of people's opinions, self-defense, he is still in jail. He was never posted bond, and he is continuing to fight for his freedom. And he will probably never receive a fair trial. And people that are in famous cases like that, while Biden is in office and while Democrats have power and while BLM is such a powerful movement in our country, I don't believe that, whether it be a youth or an adult, that white Christian males will get fair trials. It just won't happen. And the unfortunate thing is you're not going to see too many, well, even if they're, in some cases, even minority Republicans, that they're going to say, well, how's it feel? And that's an unfortunate mindset. I understand that our ancestors, and in some cases, I don't believe even my ancestors had anything to do with slavery. But I am still reaping the consequences of someone that, my ancestors never even knew and was a part of the culture in that time. and somehow I'm being punished for it because of the color of my skin and because of my religion, and my children will be that way. And they will also be judged unfairly because of those things. And these are the things that us as conservatives now need to be worried about. It's really truly not about the vaccine. It's really truly not about just conservative censorship and big tech. It's all a bigger picture than that. You have to understand that at every step of the vaccination and the mandate and to where we are now with those things, there was people like me and plenty of other people. I don't know the exact number, but it's millions of people that have not been vaccinated that have told you guys that the concerts, the vacations, the team sports. Look, I understand that some of your children might be in some of these sports, and that's their life, and maybe it seems like the end of the world. But once they have such a strong hold on what they can do to our bodies, even when it goes against our religion, you usually do not get freedoms like that back. And there's not much of an argument to be made that that's a false statement, because every step of the way with the vaccination, it has gotten worse. You know, it goes from 1 shot to 2 shots to now you have to have the booster shot to it wasn't going to get mandated, now it is mandated. And what I wanted to come on and talk about today before I forgot about it, if you remember a couple of weeks ago, the FDA voted, it was like 16-2, about the booster shots being a requirement as part of the mandate and the vaccine passport and everything. So you had 16 head scientists of the FDA vote against the booster shots being added, and that wasn't that long ago. And now, just a few weeks later, today, or last night or whenever, you have the FDA and the CDC vote unanimously. That means all of them somehow changed their minds from being 16 against it and 2 for it to all of them combined being for a pediatric version of the vaccination for children 5 to 11. Now, altogether, this would mean that roughly around 28 million children are going to be vaccinated. Now, once that is officially okayed, you would think that would not be a big deal, right? You would think that parents would be able to make these decisions for themselves, that if they want their children to be vaccinated, that's their right as parents. But that's what you thought about the vaccination for yourself. And how did that turn out for you? And look at the winter we are looking at going into. Some of us don't know that we're going to have jobs. Some of us have already been laid off. Some of us have already been peer pressured to getting a vaccination we never wanted. Some of us have got the vaccine for reasons to get some of our normal life back and then never received that promise. So we have been lied to every step of the way. So when I say that they are now okaying these vaccines for our children, please do not try to convince me that at some point they will not mandate those children to be vaccinated to go to a public school. And I don't believe it will even stop there. I believe it will inevitably, once they have ran out of dosages of the vaccine to give to people through mandates and people just being tricked into it, and then those that are willingly giving up their rights and not helping us fight against this, after that, you're going to see where you're going to take your children to the hospital for urgent medical care, and they're not going to be treated unless they're vaccinated. And there were people that said that that would never happen. And there are people that are now going to die that are not going to get kidney transplants because they aren't vaccinated. So every time that you have these leftist people that only hear what they're fed on the mainstream news say that these things aren't going to happen, they not only happen, but they happen in such a short period of time that we can't even prepare for it. And that's just what's going on. They are striking us hard. They are striking us fast. So I believe that this is a hot civil war against people who just don't agree with that side of the political atmosphere. So at what point in time as Christians are we going to come together and start fighting back? Now, when I say that, I'm not saying literally. I don't think we're there quite yet, but there will come a time where I think that's where this is inevitably headed. It's either us as Christians and people who believe in what America used to be, we are going to be beheaded one by one, and that's what they're doing right now, whether you can see it or not. That is what's happening. There are, that young lady who is going to die because she's not going to get a kidney transplant, even though both parties agreed on her being vaccinated, played no factor into it. They just denied her that kidney transplant. That's one person that died. Every young person that was vaccinated that had heart issues after the fact or diagnosed with issues that's going to die, that's one person. And so like I said, it's going to be one by one, and it has already started. So that can be our fate. Us as white Christian Americans can choose that for the next 3 years to be our fate, or we can unite and try to do something more about it. And unfortunately, even people with much bigger voices than I are doing nothing. They can come on TV. Tucker Carlson can come on TV and make fun of these leftists and Democrats and point these things out, but he's not calling for people to unite and to stand up against this and to not do this. The only people doing things like that are people that are so shunned that even, mainstream right-wing people won't say their names, like Nick Fuentes. And to be truthfully honest, I've not really known about Nick Fuentes that long. But what really drew me to him was a friend of mine showed me him, and I listened to one or two of his shows. It seemed a little harsh at first, and then he started saying things that I believe in, that are my morals, but that I'm not allowed to say out loud, because for whatever reason in the last year and a half, it's became just an evil way of thinking, when just 5 years ago it was the normal conservative mindset. We have backed away from the fighting line so far that our morals aren't what they were just 5 years ago. We have lost so much ground that now our children are going to be vaccinated, and there's not going to be a whole lot we can do about it. Parents can't even go to teacher-parents conferences and these school board meetings anymore without being, surveilled by the FBI and the CIA and treated as terrorists. This happened seamlessly overnight. and the guns aren't gonna help, because your one gun, even if you own an arsenal, is going to do nothing against trained FBI, HRT, SWAT teams. You aren't gonna have hundreds of conservatives come rushing to your aid. These are fairy tale dreams that you are thinking of. So we are under attack, and conservatives are dying, and the ones that aren't dying are being censored. And you can think of them as conservatives, or you can think of them as Christians, but I promise you, however you want to think about it, it is happening. And we are losing this fight, and we are losing it hard and fast. And we have to get up off our knees and start being a little bit more aggressive when it comes to this stuff. And this is why I said what I said on the Facebook Live that got me banned for 30 days until it got overturned. If they're not going to listen to nothing else, then we just have to be cruel. Even if it's only vocal for the time being, we have to say those things, because it's the only thing that's grabbing their attention. And I'm pretty tired. I just got off of work, so I'm not going to stay on here much longer. But the next episode podcast I'm going to do is going to be on multiculturalism. And I want you guys to understand that podcast is not going to have anything to do with hate. I'm not going to be talking about multiculturalism being bad because I hate a certain race of people or a certain type of food. All I'm going to do is point out the negative effects that it's had on America, and then I'm going to point out that because of these definition changes, it's working in our favor whether they want to believe it or not. Because normally when you think of something like a culture, you think of maybe like an African American culture or a Japanese culture, and everybody wants to say America's always been this melting pot, and I guess it has been to some extent. But somewhere along the way, we lost what it meant to be American. We did have a culture. Even if you were Japanese, Italian, French, whatever it was when you came over here, you wanted to learn English. You wanted to assimilate into American culture. You wanted to be an American. And now immigrants today are not only flooding our borders and becoming part of our country illegally, but they don't wish to assimilate. They don't wish to learn our language. They don't wish to better our society. The only thing they're doing is escaping a worse place than what America is, and maybe earning a little bit more money for the only jobs that they know how to do. And what that's inevitably doing is lowering our wages. You have all these leftists talk about how we need to raise minimum wages. Well, what do you think is going to happen to those wages when you have millions of illegal immigrants willing to do the same work for less? Those wages are going to go down, and Americans are going to lose jobs. And this is where the left isn't good at, seeing too far into the future. They are good at political chess. The really educated and well-financed Democrats are able to play these chess games, but they use stuff like this wage gap stuff to manipulate the left and the Democrats that aren't so intelligent, that don't look that far into the future. And so they just play mind games with them. So, I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, but they're tricking their own side's youth along with the rest of the normies that are voting for them. There was something else I wanted to talk about, but I can't remember what it was. We did the definition changes. We talked about that. I told you that the FDA and the CDC they are approving a pediatric vaccination for 5 to 11-year-old. So I know a lot of you have started to get vaccinated or are on the fence about being vaccinated. And just know that every vaccination that gets put in an arm is that much closer to you losing the right to whether or not your kid's going to get that. And if you think the pros and cons outweigh for your children to receive the vaccine, you've not done very much research. You don't have to look far into the data to see how many American children have died from COVID versus have had side effects of the vaccine. I'm not making any claims, Facebook. I'm just telling you, people, go look at the adverse effects of the vaccination for males, particularly 17 and under, and women, but mostly males, and then how many children have died 17 and under when it comes to COVID-19. And in my opinion, even some of those deaths were maybe potentially linked back to something other than just catching COVID, because it's awfully ironic as you see people get vaccinated, how people in their household are catching COVID. And there's already been studies that have shown that they are carrying a lot of spike proteins and able to pass on COVID even after they've been vaccinated, especially right after they've been vaccinated. But I don't want to talk too much about the vaccine because they just take my videos down and it's all a waste of time. Another thing I wanted to show you guys was I found a debate, and it's not anybody famous. They're probably absolutely more famous than me. I'm sure they got a couple thousand followers apiece. This one guy's name's Redbeard. He's clearly probably in his mid-30s. He's a lot older than this young gentleman that you'll hear. The younger gentleman is the conservative. The older gentleman is the leftist, if you will. And they're debating a topic that I don't normally talk about a lot on my channel, which is abortion, just because I'm not ready to have those battles just quite yet. I have to do more research and stuff like that. I like to know a little bit about what I come on here and speak full-heartedly about. But the reason why I do want to play a little bit of this debate for you is just to show you how delusional some of these people view abortion. And I'm not saying, anything other than you have to hear him and how ridiculous his mindset is. And I think even people that are pro-choice will hear somebody that is radically on the left and how they view abortion as absolutely insane. I mean, I couldn't get through the debate because the young gentleman can't be more than 19. Even the clearly younger, probably less educated person was going, I don't know how to debate you because your argument is so stupid. Like there's no fundamental truth to it. There is no fact to it. There is no humanity to it. You are literally, his argument is that a mother should be allowed to have abortions because the mother should always have the right to kill her children. And I am not being dramatic when I say that. He is literally arguing the point that at any point in time in your children's lives, the mother, because she gave birth to the child, has the right to end that child's life. Now, he uses an example. I guess there was a shootout between a mom and a 17-year-old son where the mother killed the son, and it was justified. That was probably from a self-defense perspective, but he uses that specific example. But when he is arguing the point, even though that's the example he gives, his idea and his belief is still literally at any point. So if you have a newborn, a 6-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 21-year-old, at any point the mom should have the right to end her child's life. And I think if I didn't let you guys hear that, you would think I was crazy. And understand, this is somebody that has a YouTube channel, that has a following, that is going on YouTube and probably reaching youths and other people that might not be as radical as he is, and shifting that Overton window so far left that there are going to be people out there that believe a mother has the right to kill their children at any point in time in their life. This is dangerous. When you are coming on and arguing the point that somebody has the right to kill anyone with no reason other than the fact that you gave birth to it, that might be when censorship should be introduced. That might be where we can draw the line of free speech in America. But because they are on the left, because they probably voted for, well, I'd almost guarantee you they voted for Biden, they are allowed to come onto YouTube and try to convince people that if you are a woman or a guy who, does the gender dysphoria thing, and I don't know how they get them pregnant. It's some weird evil witchcraft shit. But they do this, that after you give birth to that child at any point in time, you can just end that person's life. And at that point, there is no argument that it would be a person. I don't think there's anybody on the planet that would say a 20-year-old adult walking down the street is not a human. And his argument is, as long as you were the one who gave birth to him, you could just go up and execute him. That's insane. I don't even know, and these are the people that are infiltrating our schools. These are the people that are becoming lawyers and are in our college institutions. And I've said it for a long time. It's not just the vaccine. It's not just, the mandates and the lockdowns. Well, we have to stop this ideology and this mindset, and maybe even the Democratic Party as a whole. If this is the way they want to continue to shift that Overton window and try to manipulate and push the youth towards, we will not only lose this country, but we will lose humanity as a whole. I mean, and maybe once this happens, if they succeed, maybe that will be hell on earth. I don't know. But it's not a good thing, I can tell you that. But you'll just have to hear it for yourself, because it's really scary stuff. But I'll have to try to find it for you guys. I thought I had it on here.
Well, life is your inheritance from the matrilineal line back from when it first began. You owe your life to your mother, and as such, she has the right to take it away. 4 months ago in Oklahoma City, there was a shootout between a mother and a 17-year-old son. And as a result of that, the son was killed. Now, you might ask, well, was she justified in killing her son? And my answer would be, it doesn't matter, because life itself is a gift that you have received, and you are not owed the keeping of it if the person who's given it to you decides to take it away. So that is my opening statement.
All right, so we can just open up the floor then.
Okay, so does this extend at any point in your life, so your mother can take your life without repercussion, or the son should not, or daughter should not try and stop the mother from taking their life at any point? Or is it only inside the womb?
If a mother wanted to kill her child at some point, don't you think that she would have some justification for doing so?
No.
All right, so he goes on to try to backtrack that statement a little bit, saying that if a mom wanted to kill her child, she absolutely has the right to at any point in the person's life, not even child at that point, right? We're talking about a 17, 18-year-old person. He's saying that if a mother was to kill that person that she gave birth to, that she absolutely had the right, but she probably wouldn't do it unless she had a good reason, which the debate was strictly on abortion, and to come at it from a stance that a mother has the right to eliminate the life of their children at any point in their life, it is just mind-blowing. And you can hear in that the guy he's debating is a lot younger than he is, and his response, even his opening statement, before he even gets to his opening statement, he is like, wait, what the fuck did you just say? Like, you can clearly see that there is something wrong with this person's head and their thought process. These are the same people that are writing books to try to teach our children about being transgender. These are the same people that are having children in California do strip teases for them and calling them, boy beauty pageants in California. This is a very slippery slope, and the snowball effect gets very big very fast. And it has to stop. And I don't think there's any time or room for politeness anymore. We just have to be firm. And I know it's probably going to come across as a Bible thumper standpoint, or maybe a right wing extremist standpoint, maybe even a white nationalist standpoint. But I said it a couple videos back. We have to stop letting words hurt our feelings and then make fun of the left for the same exact thing. Who cares what they call you? Just let them know that the way they think and what they're doing to this country is wrong. What they say after that doesn't really matter, because their stance and their morals are so unjust and so inhumane that what they think of you should not matter. But that's all I have for you guys today. I have to get to bed. So you guys stay safe, stay prepared. God first, America first. Peace, y'all.